Welcome. You here for another edition of the Black Wealth Experience podcast. And today it is actually going to be a dual purpose because I also have a podcast, if you haven't checked it out yet. It is the Mile High Real Estate Spotlight, where we talk to realtors and we talk about their businesses and why they're doing so good and how they make an impact in the community. And this isn't just for every realtor. It's for realtors that are doing it and making it happen. There are folks that are getting in the business and they do one or two transactions in a year. And so that's great. But we really want to highlight the folks that are doing something and making an impact in the community. And so I'm going to be talking about both. I have Eriqueca Sanders on today, and you're just going to love the things that she has to say and the things that she's doing in the community and how she's making it work. And we're going to talk a little bit about, Black wealth and housing. And when we think about creating personal wealth or generational wealth, we realize the first stepping stone to that is through home ownership. Home ownership just does something different for people in their lives that allow them to create wealth. And I don't know if there's another vehicle out there other than winning the lottery that is going to allow you to create wealth. And the chances of you winning the lottery are really, really small. You probably have a better chance of being struck by lightning. And if it doesn't rain where you're at, then you still have a better chance of being struck by lightning. But on the real estate side, you almost every single person I know, if they want to buy a house, they already have to have a job. But if they have a job and want to own a house, we can figure out a way for them doing it. And if you're living in an apartment and you're spending $2,000 to $3,000, I was talking to somebody this weekend, $3,000 a month on an apartment. When I think about that, I said, I was talking to him and I said, that's $36,000 a year that you're giving to another landlord to pay his mortgage. And we think about whose mortgage you're paying. And then we look at, if you do that for 10 years, that's $360,000 that you've now paid to that apartment complex. And I'm sure you've paid for that unit more than that unit that is actually that's been built there. So with that said, Eriqueca Sanders, thank you for being on the show today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know how busy you are to be on the show. And if you could just kind of introduce yourself a little bit and tell us how to get a hold of you. I want to do that at the beginning and the end so somebody can zoom to it and then get a hold of you right away. So how do we get a hold of you, Miss Ericca?
Well, thank you for having me, Brian. I really appreciate this honor. So yes, Eriqueca Sanders. My company is 303 Realty Group. And the best way to reach me is by cell phone. So 720-435-3300. But you can also reach me by email, which is Ericca, spelled uniquely, ERIQUECA @303realty.net.
So Ericca, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about why you got into the business. Where did you grow up? That kind of stuff, just so people can really get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm a product of Denver. So I'm a Denver native, grew up right in the city. What we known affectionately as the East Side,
okay,
right? Of Denver. So off of 33rd and Elizabeth. Went to East High School.
Okay.
Also went to Metropolitan State College at the time. Now it's university. So that's kind of my plight there. After high school, after college and everything, I ended up working at had a few jobs, but my longest job after, that experience was the American Heart Association, which was a great starting career, we'll say. So I did that for about 7 years. I kind of got to a point where, I reached a ceiling, I felt, with that role. And at the time I was kind of newly married to my husband, who is also in the industry. So he's a mortgage professional, and he had been kind of giving me a little nudge, like, you should get your real estate license. And it was ironic because I always loved real estate. I was privileged to be around it. My grandparents believed in home ownership on both sides of the family. And so it was kind of ingrained that this is just something you should have. And, we're not a family that came from money. I look at my mom's first house, she paid like $30,000 for it. And it was her, small 2-bed, 1-bath house, right? With the basement. And so
but it was hers.
It was hers, right? And she, believe it or not, still owns that house today. So,
all right.
And it's in a neighborhood that has grown quite a bit, which I'm sure we'll tie that into generational wealth later. But anyway, so with a little nudge, it was something I was interested in, and that was just the right time because I was kind of over like the corporate thing, wanted to do something different. And I really like the ability to make an impact in people's lives. So home is such a very important aspect of someone's life, right? The saying, home is where the heart is. It's where your heart and your soul are, right? So just being a part of that process was very appealing to me.
Okay. What is right now your favorite part? You've been doing it a while.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't left the industry like so many people do. You're impacting families. What's your favorite part about being an agent and helping people out?
Gosh, I love a lot of aspects of it, which is why I've done this so long. So I've been in the industry. Next year will officially be year 20 as an agent. Technically, I was in the industry before then, but kind of doing some stuff on the banking side. I really love the people. This is a business about people for me. And that's the best aspect, is like I said before, just really helping people with their home ownership goals. That's first priority. Like I love seeing a first-time home buyer buy their first property and then a couple of years later realize that they have all this equity that, that they can tap into. Many of those people who they didn't have a lot of money at the time. They didn't put a lot of money down. And I mean, I've seen upwards of over $100,000 in equity for some of these young first-time home buyers, that they had no idea that they could make this kind of money that way. So to me, that is where that's a piece I guess I love the most. But I have a, very diverse clientele. So I also really like seeing people build wealth very successfully through real estate. I have one client in particular. I mean, I've watched him go from, I think the first house I helped him with, it was like a tri-level, probably 2,000 square feet. And then now like we're selling $2.7 million homes, for him. So it's really great being able to see someone grow. And most of that growth was due to real estate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so cool to hear. So I'm a brand new guy. I call Erica up and I say, I think I want to buy a house. I just have no clue even how to go about it, what to do. What are some of the things that you're going to share with me first off that will help me kind of hone in on what my possibilities? I've saved, a few $1,000s. My mom told me I should go buy a house. I'm living in an apartment. What do you say to me?
I love that, because that is probably, a good portion of my clientele. That's them. Mm-hmm. So the very first thing is I want to make sure that we get the financing locked down, because that's going to be the most important thing. We need to make sure that, you can qualify for a loan. And if you can't right now, we need to make sure that you're on a path to qualification. So my first step is to connect you with the lender, someone that I know is capable of getting you to the finish line. I'll give typically a couple of resources of my top lenders. And then once we get the green light, that we can buy, then my thing is I want to sit down and educate. That's really, really important for me. So I'm going to consult with all of my buyers. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk about the home buying process. We're going to have a very clear understanding of what they need to bring to the table in order to purchase. So what financial means that they need to have in order to close. I want to make sure that, there's no surprises in this process. So it's just that opportunity to really sit down with them, understand what their goals are, understand what their needs are. And then once we get through that educational piece, then comes the fun part of actually presenting them homes and taking them through those homes. And then, of course, ultimately taking them through the process of home ownership.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, and I love that the fact that you're just saying, okay, it's going to be a process. Lending's first. I'm the same way. I'm a lender. So it's like, yes, please come to me first, not after you've tried to put a contract in a house and we're seeing if you could qualify.
Right.
And what's good nowadays is at least, anybody who is selling a home on that side of it is saying, I need to see something from your lender before we move forward.
Absolutely, absolutely, and understandably, you know.
Yeah, because why go through the process? But I've still been in there where I've had, okay, this is what I'm telling you can qualify for. And then I hand it over to, a realtor, real estate agent. And all of a sudden they're showing him houses that are out of the price range. And they're calling me and saying, can you stretch it? And I'm like, maybe a little bit, but you're talking about $50,000 or $60,000. No, I can't stretch it. They can't, this is what they make, And so I love the fact that you're looking at the whole plan and you're looking at just not, this is what we're doing today, but this is how the whole process works.
Absolutely. And I like what you said because, I think there are agents that do that, but the point of the pre-qualification is to really prevent them from falling in love with homes that aren't in their budget, we'll say, and so that's where the professional can actually, have that conversation with their client before showing them the properties, as well as have a conversation with the lender. So my style would be, instead of taking you out to see a bunch of houses that you don't qualify for, if you find that if this person finds that the properties that they're interested in are in a little bit of a higher price point, then I'm going to come to you as the loan professional and say, hey, can we push this, because all the houses that they're seeing online that they're interested in are in this price point, and is there anything that we can do to push them there? So I'm going to do that before taking them out to see all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so cool that you're doing that. So you've been doing it, you said, almost 20 years here. And so what makes you an exceptional agent that kind of differentiates you from some of the other agents that are out there, because you learn stuff, I know, through experience. And so give us some of those things that you may do that others don't do, or just some, and one of them is just this plan. I mean, not everybody does, as intensive plan, but what are some of the other things that you do that have, put you in where you're at?
Really kind of echoing what I said before, it's really just, this is my career. So I take it very seriously. And so I think number one, first and foremost, is always maintaining professionalism. So that's crucial. Someone that is purchasing likely one of the largest purchases of their life, they do not want someone unprofessional guiding them. So just kind of maintaining that professional appearance. And I have very solid systems. I've been, like I said, been doing this a long time. So I've learned what works and what doesn't work. I learned what buyers like and what they don't like. I learned what sellers like and don't like, and really having those systems in place to make sure that their process is as smooth as possible. Because if they feel like, as they go through this process, if they feel like, wow, this was super easy, I could probably do that, then I've done my job well, because I've made it look very simple and easy. There's a lot that goes into helping someone buy a home. It's, having the expertise, number one, having the knowledge about areas and the current real estate markets, having those contacts, those professional contacts that are going to be very resourceful, such as lenders, title companies, inspectors, things like that. All of those things are going to help make the process a little bit smoother. And so first and foremost, I just focus on that professionalism and making sure that my buyer or my seller really feel like, they're being guided very, very clearly, very professionally, very precisely. And, the goal is that at the end of the process, they feel like, hey, that went really smoothly. Fortunately, a lot of my clients can say that. Yeah.
So let's, switching gears just a little bit, not a ton. So we go to this first time home buyer, sometimes in our community, sometimes in other communities, but have had a history of nobody in the family's ever owned a home. So, it's one thing when your mom, dad had it, they kind of talk to you through it. This is, folks maybe grew up in the projects or just grew up in apartments. They have associations of folks that are all telling them they can't do it. Or like yesterday, I had somebody, she called me and she said, I've never owned a house. And they told me that, I'm going to lose the house because, I'm not able to afford the way to fix it up. If the furnace goes out or the water heater goes out and they don't have no money, then I've heard stories of somebody losing the house. I'm going, that's not true. Somebody loses a house because their furnace went out, right? But
Right.
at the same time, these folks are super scared
Yeah.
because everybody's telling them it can't be done. What are some of the things that, to help people get over those fears and those trepidations of, I don't know if I can even own a home. I'm a first-time person. Can you hold my hand? What are some of the things that you do, specifically maybe just to kind of help those folks get through that process?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge, especially within certain communities, particularly Black and Brown communities. A lot of times those communities didn't have opportunity, as they saw it anyway, for home ownership. And you have just kind of like systematic issues that kind of keep you in that same place. And I'm sure you've experienced so many renters that, as far as they know, every generation has rented. So home ownership just doesn't seem realistic. It seems difficult. It doesn't seem easy, right? And so we definitely have to dispel those risks, those myths. I think the main thing is getting the information out to the community. That's the key, because it's just a lack of information. You understand that you
Oh,
can buy
gosh.
a house like for very little. You could basically, I mean, and I'm in the process of unfortunately having to buy a new car.
Okay.
And when you think about that, there's so many renters that feel like they can never be homeowners, but they are automobile owners.
Mm-hmm.
They have to put a down payment on that automobile, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Many times, and I know you can relate, you can get into a house for the same or even lower down payment than what you had to put on your car. And people don't understand. There's so many programs out there that will allow first-time home buyers to get into properties with relatively nothing out of pocket. I mean, there's going to be some out of pocket, but it's very small in most instances. And some people just don't realize that that's out there. So it's really about getting out into the community, educating. How do I do that? I do that by being part of organizations like NARAB, which is National Association of Real Estate Brokers. The mission of NARAB is to increase home ownership amongst Black Americans. Of course, we're also supporting, our other communities as well, but the focus is increasing home ownership rates amongst that community, right? So I'm part of those organizations, and whenever I have the opportunity to get in front of our community, maybe it's through a home buyer seminar. It's really just about getting that information out, making sure that it's relatable and people understand. I understand I understand the resistance, but this is actually easy. It's really easy.
I hear you. And that myth of that, I have to have 20% down. I talked to, a grandma that we got her into a house, a few weeks ago, not even a month ago, and she had this thing in her mind that said, I have to have this much money in order to buy a house.
Yeah.
And then the belief is I'll never hit that much money, and you think, 20 years ago could have already built that much equity, but just didn't have the availability to. Next question I have is the market, and we hear all these rumors, and we hear the Fed's raising the rates and all these things that probably don't affect everybody. I mean, it affects us, but not in the person who's just trying to get into a house as much as they think it does. And they start talking about rate, and on my side, I'm like, you got to get into a house. If it goes lower, we'll refinance. If it goes up, you might be out of it. So now is the time to do it. But as a real estate agent, when we think about the market, tell us where you think the market's at, because folks are saying, well, it's not the right time to buy a house. And then where do you think it's going to go here in the next, I don't know, year to 2 years? What's your thought process? Have been in this business for all these years. You kind of probably have an idea as it's cyclical.
Yeah. I think if you would ask me that question like 15 years ago, my answer would be different. But now that I've had the opportunity to see basically 2 decades of markets, seeing, pretty much all the possible markets. Now, one thing that I realized through that time is there's never a bad time to buy real estate, really. I've had people purchase in what most would have considered a terrible time to buy real estate, which was during, the 08 through I would say 08 through about 2010. Actually really started 07. 07 to about 2010, 2011. It was a little rough. And I'm sure a lot of people were convinced that that was a bad time to buy. But think about the people that bought in 08, 2010, 2011, and they just kind of waited that market out. And then they come into 2014, 2015, 2016, all the way into the 2020s, and the amount of equity that they have in those homes are insane.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah.
So at that time, it was a quote bad time to buy. Now we look at now, right? The system repeats itself. So now people are scared to buy because of interest rates, right? Before it was because of the market crashing. The reality is there's always going to be some kind of market issue, right? Or economical issue. Whatever's going on in our world is going to impact our market, right? And so, what I've realized is that one thing that stands true: we all need a place to stay. And the people that realize that if I need a place to stay anyway, I'm going to be paying anyway. Why don't I pay for something that is going to give back to me later? And so that's really how I dispel the myth of this is such a bad time to buy. I mean, rates are always going to fluctuate. Rates right now, they're only 6-7%. That was pretty normal when I got into the business. That was actually good if you got a 6% interest rate.
I know.
It's like, 6%. I remember it being really.
Yeah, my first house was 11. So if I was 11 was fine. I wasn't even close to 6.
Yeah,
that would have been a miracle.
Exactly. I mean, I think when we bought it first was like probably 8% or something like that, 8 or 9%. And the reality is, as I mentioned, outside forces are going to affect markets, right? The financial market, which is going to affect the real estate market. And one thing that we can say, even if you've just been living life and paying attention, markets are always going to fluctuate. They're going to go up, they're going to go down. Rates are always going to go up, they're going to go down, they're going to go up, they're going to go down. So reality is you take advantage of those fluctuations when they are an advantage to you. So when you buy at a higher rate, when you have the opportunity to refinance at a lower rate, that's when you make that move, right? And so to me, now is a great time to buy because there's still very, very low inventory, but we're not dealing with 2%, 2 and 3% interest rates, meaning you don't have as much buyer competition as we did during the market where the rates were super low.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ericca, we're running out of time here because you've done such an incredible job of explaining.
No, I'm a talker. I'm like, I start talking about things, I just keep going. So.
I love it. But because I'm going to have you back on because things are going to change, and I want you to come back on and we can continue our conversation. But one, I want you to make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you, and two, if you have any closing thoughts that you would love to share with somebody who's thinking about how to get a hold, that kind of stuff that you'd want to leave for this audience as they watch this.
Yeah. So once again, my contact info is email Eriqueca, ERIQUECA @303 Realty. That's REALTY.net. And then my phone number is 720-435-3300. Last remarks, this is really greatly about building wealth. And again, what I've come to know through my own experiences, but also really through my clients' journeys, is that real estate is going to by far be the most bang for your buck in terms of investment. And I always want people to view it that way, that this is not only your home, but it's also an investment vehicle. And so I really hope that your viewers, those especially that don't own homes, will really consider home ownership as a tool, an investment tool, because it's just, you're not going to get more bang for your buck without taking great risk anywhere else.
Absolutely. I agree so much with you. It is such a great investment and something that everybody needs to do. And with all the programs and everything that's out there, let's take advantage of it. You know, if you can get into a home for $1,000 or even less, sometimes there's no reason not to, other than the fear. And if, you know, fear is false evidence appearing real, right?
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that we're out there. So thank you again so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you today, and I can't wait to do it again. Thank you
Me
for
too.
doing
Thanks for
all
having me.
right.
I appreciate it.
We'll talk with you guys soon, and thank you for being. Here's what I want to leave with is you can do it, you deserve it, and let us help you if you're scared to be able to do it. So you guys have a wonderful, awesome day, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, bye.